For the next 31 days, I want to take you all behind the scenes with me as I document my journey as a new first-time mom. I really hope you all enjoy my transparency as I plan to share the good, the bad, and the ugly. So with that being said, let's jump right into the series and don't forget to subscribe. And welcome back to the channel for another video. Today I am attempting to do my labor and delivery story time. Please bear with me. It's been a lot going on today. I finally think I got the right lighting. I shouldn't have any more interruptions. And we're gonna get into it. So I do have baby girl right here, and she is on her way to sleep, but she's not sleeping very long these days. I don't know what's going on. She's only like what, 12 days old, I think, today. So she should still be sleeping a lot, but she's not. She just went to sleep, so we'll see. All right, so labor and delivery story time, and I'm trying to keep these dates right when I'm telling the story, but it's kind of like I keep getting mixed up. So on Sunday, if you guys keep up with my videos, you would have seen I did a vlog and I let you guys know that my contractions started getting heavy and that I thought it was time to prepare for labor. Are you hungry? What? Okay, so that was Sunday. So on Sunday, I also started taking the red raspberry leaf tea. I started doing squats. I went for a walk that evening. I started doing all the things I could think of to speed up the process. Come Monday, I believe my water broke. I didn't know it was my water breaking, but what I experienced was a clear mucousy-like discharge. It wasn't a lot, and I honestly thought it had to do with being group B strep positive. And the way that was described to me is that some women have it and some women don't. It's not sexually transmitted, but basically my body produces a special type of discharge. And before I can deliver my child, I need to take liquid IVs to make sure that nothing passes down to her. That's my understanding. So I was B strep positive, and I'm thinking this discharge has something to do with that. Again, it wasn't a lot of discharge, so I'm not really panicked. The only person that I know that experienced a water breaking was my sister, and she described it as feeling like she peed her pants and being uncontrollable, like you just couldn't make it stop. So this wasn't that. So I didn't know. So that was on Monday. Tuesday, I did notice it did happen again. And on Tuesday when it happened, it was a lot more. So I was a little concerned and I had every intention to look into it and do some research, but I completely forgot. So, and I know that's a horrible excuse, but I like literally, by the time I got off the toilet and, whatever, I just didn't even think about it, which is weird, but I was on to the next thing. I was probably doing a vlog or something, who knows? So all that day I started tracking my contractions on this app. And according to the app, sometimes it was like, it's time to head to the hospital. And then other times it was like, oh, you're not quite ready yet. So I had to make an executive decision, and I was trying to listen to my body, and I didn't feel like it was urgent enough to where I felt like we needed to go. So we didn't go. But I kept tracking it, and later that night, I told my husband maybe we should go. So I told him I'll know for sure by the time you get home, because he had praise and worship rehearsal. He had to pick up Jaden from basketball practice. So I was like, when you get home, I'll let you know for sure if it's time to go to the hospital. By the time he got home, I was like, nah, I don't think so. I think we're good. So we go to sleep, or I tried to go to sleep, but then the contractions started happening. So I wake back up and I go in the living room and I pace the room and I pray and I lay down, just doing all the little things that I do. And then at some point I had two very extremely heavy contractions. Those contractions should have let me know that I was in labor. They were really heavy. They were much similar to the ones that I experienced when I got to the hospital. I was like, okay, maybe it is time, but I don't know. I kept going back and forth. It was only those two contractions. The rest of them were back to normal, like, bearable. I do think I have a high pain tolerance, so that doesn't help the situation. But I ended up just getting off the couch. I was ready to go to bed because the pain had passed. And I was like, well, let me use the restroom real quick, and then I'm gonna lay down and go to sleep. So again, this is Tuesday night. Ended up using the restroom. And I was like, okay, there goes that discharge again. How did I forget to look this up earlier? So let me look this up right now because now I'm concerned. So I look it up, and I believe it's called amniotic fluids or something like that. And it was basically what I'm reading matched the description of what I'm experiencing. So as I read further, it said, if you're group B strep positive, you need to hurry up and get to the hospital because now you need time to take your IVs. You know, basically you're on a time crunch. So now I'm panicked. So I wake up my husband, and at this time it's like midnight. So technically we're in Wednesday. And I wake him up and I'm like, we gotta go. Now I know, like I had that feeling as a woman that I felt I would feel it's time. So I wake him up, I'm like, let's go, we gotta go. So we go, and I couldn't even talk. Like in my mind, I'm so panicked, I didn't even know what to say. So I'm grateful he did all the talking. So he's like, my wife thinks she's in labor. So the guy was like, okay, she can go back here. You have to stay in the waiting room. So I went back, and the lady asked me, you know, to explain what's going on. So I tell her, you know, I think my water broke, yada, yada. I didn't think anything of it earlier, but now, you know, I didn't, whatever. I explained to her the situation. She's like, okay, I need you to pee in this cup and we'll go from there. So they ran some tests and they were like, yes, you are in labor. And she was like, so when did your water break again? And I tell her like noon. I couldn't remember what time I first noticed it on Tuesday. If you want to be technical, I could have told her Monday because that was the first sight of the discharge, but again, it was just like a trinkle. So I don't know officially when exactly my water broke, but I told her noon. So she's like, so why did you wait till now? Because it was midnight. So I was like, you know, I explained the situation. I feel like I explained it a few times, but she's responding to me like, you're slow. And I'm like, I already feel bad. So like, she's like, so what was the difference between now and then? So why did you do like, I don't know. I didn't like the vibes I was getting. She was a nice lady, but she just, I don't know, didn't sit right with me. But I was like, should I be worried? And she was like, well, yeah. Since it's been ruptured for so long, now you and your child are both at risk of an infection. So now I'm like really freaking out. So finally they switched me to a different room, and Eichel gets to come with me, and I tell him what they told me about the infection. And he's like, no, she's fine. Well, you guys are both fine. There's nothing to worry about. You know, the typical faith answer that my husband is gonna give about everything. I'm still freaking out. I do have faith, but I'm still kind of scared, you know. So fast forward, they hooked me up to all the stuff, and now I'm starting to get some really heavy contractions. Now tell me why. I don't know. I don't know why I didn't know this, but I just thought like when you're in labor, like your body is naturally gonna start having these contractions. But I believe what happened was they gave me Pitocin or something, and it started making the contractions go. And so now I'm in a lot of pain, and it's excruciating. I felt like death. I know it didn't look like it according to the vlog that I posted, but I felt like I was dying. And it didn't feel good. It was horrible. So I was like, yeah, epidural me. Like, I'll take it. Let's go. So within like 45 minutes, I had my epidural. I was grateful I didn't have to wait super long. The lady who gave it to me did a great job. I think she was new. I started putting that together the more I talked to different nurses. They were like, who did your epidural? Who? Like, everybody was asking that. And I was like, Nguyen, I think that was her last name. And they were like, oh, wow, like I need her to do mine for everything. Like as if they didn't, I don't know. But I think she was new, but she did an excellent job. And yeah, so the contractions were happening. They gave me the epidural, and then I felt fine. At some point, they switched us from that room to a labor room because all the rooms were taken up. So finally, when a labor room became available, they were like, okay, we're going to switch you. But in the process of them switching me, my epidural thing came unplugged. So they had to call her back to plug it back in. And she was like, okay, I need you to press it so I can make sure it's working. So I had to give myself another dose of epidural, and that just took it to the next level. Like my legs were numb. Like they were gone. Like I couldn't feel too much of anything. So Fast forward, so we had at this time we had Nurse Tina, and she was great. Like, I don't remember the first nurse. They kept switching the nurses, you know, every so many hours because their shifts would end. So the nurse I started with, I genuinely don't remember her. I was only with her for like the first 5 or 10 minutes. But then they switched me over to Nurse Tina, and I didn't think I was gonna like her, but I really liked her. I think she was my favorite. I asked her what she thought. I asked her as far as the infection thing. I asked her if my baby was going to be okay, and she was like, you don't need to be worrying about that. It's in God's hands now. So I was like, okay, that's okay. Um, so she got me from like 2 centimeters to, I want to say, six centimeters by the time it was time for her shift to end. She said she was going to try to stay overtime to stay with me, but she couldn't because she was working 3 days or something like that. So fast forward, they switched nurses again, and now I have Nurse Vanessa. Nurse Vanessa was really sweet. I really liked her. So she basically completes the dilation process. She gets me all the way to 10 centimeters. By the time I'm ready to go into delivery, she's telling me that the nurse that's supposed to deliver is running late. So she's being very vague, not really giving me anything to go on. And I get it, but I was getting a little frustrated, myself and my husband. He was more frustrated than me. I was still trying to, you know, just enjoy the atmosphere and all the things, but he was like, it's time, she needs to be here, because she was really late. It was like 3 hours late. So finally Nurse Vanessa was like, we're just gonna get started without her. She should be here by the time you're ready to deliver. We're gonna start pushing. So we get to starting pushing. We actually had an intern sit in too. So now it's myself, my husband, Nurse Vanessa, and an intern. And I'm pushing and pushing and pushing. So the first hour, we go into it. I'm excited. I'm thinking something's happening. Like, they're cheering for me. They're like, good job, mama. Just like that, mom. I see hair. Like, you know, all the things. And I'm thinking, okay, we're doing it. And long and behold, we wasn't doing nothing, because she would come out and she would suction back and come out and suction back. Like, it was an hour of this. She wasn't getting anywhere. She's like, we're trying to get her head to stay so we can, you know, go from there. But every time you push, like, she goes back in. So then at some point, her heart rate starts dropping. And so then they give me an oxygen mask, and then they're like, okay, push, mama, push. And then after I push, they're like, okay, oxygen. And so now I'm really getting discouraged. They're just trying different positions. They're like, okay, let's try the right side. She really didn't like the right side. Every time I turned to the right, heart rate immediately dropped. So they're like, okay, no, let's try the left side. Left side works. So we're doing all of this, and I'm freaking out because, like, I'm thinking about all these things. You know, actually, I did end up asking Nurse Vanessa if my baby was going to have an infection, because I was asking all the nurses. And she was like, no, she's not at risk. Only you're at risk. So when she told me that, I had perfect peace. But now we're in the process of pushing, and now I'm seeing her heart rate decline. So I'm freaking out about that. And then at some point, Nurse Vanessa reaches in to help do something, and I tear. And I kind of felt something happen, but again, I was pretty numb, so I don't know what exactly, but I know I felt something. But I did look at my husband's face, and he said it all. Like, his face went cold, and I know that face. So when he's concerned, I get concerned, because he's often not concerned. And I heard him say, she's gonna be okay. And Nurse Vanessa was like, yeah, no, she's fine. But it must have been a lot of blood, because he went to that place. And so now I'm really, like, discouraged, and I worked really hard to work towards not tearing. Like, I did the coconut oil and all the things. So I was, like, really discouraged by that. And we're just doing this same push. She goes back, push, she goes back. So she's like, okay, at 2 hours, we're going to take a break. And I was like, no, I don't want to take no breaks. So I'm getting tired. Now, at this point, my legs are, like, feeling, like, jittery. You know, like how if you're hanging on a monkey bar for too long, like, your arms start to give out. That's how I felt. Even though they were holding my legs, I was still feeling very much weak. And I was hot, and her heart rate, like I said, was dropping, and all these things are going through my mind. And we are at the 2.5 hour mark, I believe. So finally, the last 30 minutes, I started trying to push even harder. And at this point, I think we're making some kind of progress, because now my husband is like, okay, yeah, babe, that's it. Like, you're doing good. Like, when he started cheering for me, like, I knew something was happening, even though he was supportive the whole time. But I could hear the nurses more than I could hear him, until at that point I started hearing him. But I will say, at some point I did get emotional. Um, nurse, no, the intern, she went to go look for a fan. We were taking a break in between contractions, and my husband was on my side, and I looked at him and I started crying, and I didn't expect to cry, but I just felt so discouraged because I didn't feel like I could do it. I really felt like I could not do it. And at first it was just like tears. And then as he's talking to me, he's like, don't do that. Don't do it. Like, you got this. You're good. You're strong. Da, da, da. Then I started boo-hooing. And it was just a mess. Like, I'm over here in tears, and Nurse Vanessa, she's calling to see where the delivery nurse is, because she's like, we're gonna need you down here. And then, so finally, I'm hot, y'all. But finally, we did the last 30 minutes of pushing, because it turned out to be like a 3-hour session. It's the last 30 minutes, I'm pushing with all my might. And then finally, she makes the phone call, and she says, nurse so-and-so, we need you down here. The heart rate's not looking good for baby girl. And I'm like, I don't even know what my options are. At this point, I'm thinking they're gonna have to cut me open, because I know I can't finish pushing. They keep talking about her heart rate is dropping. So the other nurse, the delivery nurse, comes in. She's like, all right, mama, we're gonna vacuum her out. You ready? All right, vacuum set. Go ahead, push. I do 3 hard pushes, and she just came right out. And it seemed like they just threw her on me, and she was just crying, but her eyes were so big and glossy, and I was crying, and now it's just this emotional thing. And I just it was crazy. Like, I wasn't even bothered at, like, you know how when babies come out, they're covered in stuff. Like, that didn't even bother me. And I always wondered how I would feel about that. But like, I was just holding her and looking at her, and we was just both crying. And it was just a lot of people were in the room at this point. And then I heard them say, Dad, you want to cut the cord? And then he cuts the cord, and I don't know, y'all. It was, from that point, it was beautiful. Like, from that point, everything was just, it was a beautiful moment. And yeah, she was just gorgeous to me from first sight. And so they measured her and all the things, and I tried to put my legs down, and they were like, no, we got repairs to do. I was like, repairs, plural? And then they said her weight and all that, and they said she was 7 pounds 1 ounce, and they said 21 inches, which actually turns out she's 18.75 inches, or was 18.75 inches at birth. So I don't know how that's gonna go. I guess it's not gonna be corrected on her birth certificate, but it's fine. But I saw the full head of hair, and I was just like so in love. And that is pretty much the story of my labor and delivery experience. And I'll have you know, she has no infections. She's healthy as ever. She passed all her tests with flying colors, her hearing test and everything. So she's doing well, and even now she's still healthy. So I'm gonna get ready to feed her. She's eating a lot more these days and staying up a lot longer these days, but all is well. I'm enjoying our time together and just trying not to rush it, because I know it goes by really fast. But I'm grateful, and I think I said everything. I hope I didn't leave anything out. I'm not even gonna hold you. Like, I tried to film this like 10 times. But anyway, nonetheless, baby girl is here and healthy and well. And I hope you guys enjoyed my story time. So with that being said, I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye. I do have baby girl right here. Oh no. I think, did you poop? We gotta check. She's been pooping a lot. Oh gosh. Okay, yeah, it's been a lot trying to get this video uploaded. The sun keeps moving. Oh Jesus, is that okay? I think this is okay. Okay, so labor and delivery, I'm gonna change this girl.